good evening. This is the Town of Littleton Board of Health meeting for Wednesday, February 8th, 2023. It's 7 o'clock. We'll get started with the public hearing for our trash hauler regulations. The board will formally vote to adopt trash hauler regulations. There was some discrepancy in the fall as to whether the board had actually taken a formal vote on said trash hauler regulations. It was unable to be confirmed that the board had done so. So we are here this evening to once again potentially discuss, although we already have, but definitely motion and vote on trash hauler regulations. We can go around the board quickly and see if there's any questions or comments. We'll start with Kevin Davis.
No question or comments. I read through everything. All good to go.
Dan Kane.
Dan Kane, no questions.
Gino Fratelloni. Please unmute, Gino. While we're waiting, Matt Wason.
No questions or comments.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you now.
All right.
No questions or comments?
No question or comment at the moment.
Yeah, I have no questions or comments either. The regs are exactly how we left them, how we approved them. Now we just need to take the form and get a formal motion and a formal vote to put these in place. Then Brenda can go ahead and publish them in the paper, and we'll get them stamped and certified. Get them to town clerk DEP, and we'll be on our way. If there's a motion.
Make a motion to adopt the regulations as we have written them.
I second.
All right, motion in a second. We'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Davis.
Kevin Davis, yes.
Gino Fratelloni.
Yes.
Dan Kane.
Dan Kane, yes.
And Matt Wason.
Matt Wason, yes.
And Kevin Baker votes yes. Thank you, guys. So Brenda, while we have you and we have 3 minutes, can you just run through the next steps for board members here so we're all on the same page?
In reference to the
Trash hauler regs?
yes, so I will tomorrow print them out. We do need to have them signed, and once, so if you could come in tomorrow to sign them, we'll bring them to the clerk. They'll get stamped. I will put the ad in the Lowell Sun tomorrow, and then also send to the DEP.
Okay.
Do all of us need to come in or just Kevin Baker?
No, we need at least 3.
I'll be there tomorrow morning.
Great. And you, I saw you had put together that list of local trash haulers to whom we can send out a formal letter with
Okay.
the packet.
Sure. And if anyone has any others that they might want to add, those are, when I Googled, that's what I came up with. But if you have any others that in the area, we can add them and then get them out.
Okay.
I don't have the list in front of me. Do you know if Prime is on the list out of Air?
I believe Prime is. If not, I will add that. I'll put those in the notes to add.
Just making notes here. And while we have another minute, we were sent meeting minutes for approval. Hoping everybody had a chance to read through those. Does anyone on the board raise your hand if you have a question or comment or change? Matt Wason.
Just a typo on the 11th January minutes under public hearing food truck regulations. It's Matt Davis, and I'm pretty sure it's Kevin Davis.
Thank you.
That was the only thing I saw.
Matt Davis was not there. Anybody else have a question or comment on the minutes, changes, edits?
Matt Davis stole mine.
Is there a motion?
Make a motion that we accept the January 11th minutes as amended.
Second,
Motion is second. We'll take a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Gina Ferroni, yes.
Ann Kane,
And Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Thank you very much. Brenda, did we have one other set of minutes?
We did. We had the 25th.
25th.
Yes, we also had the 25th. Thanks.
Did anyone have a chance? I'm sure everybody had a chance to read through those and get back to Brenda. If there's no changes or edits on that, we'll take a motion.
I don't see any changes. Looks good to me. Anybody else?
I was fine with them. I had replied back to Brenda with no changes.
I make a motion to accept the January 25th meetings as presented.
A second,
Motion in the second. We'll have a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis votes yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Gina Ferroni, yes.
Ann Kane,
And Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
Kevin Baker votes yes. And I believe that was it for minutes, correct, Brenda?
Yes.
Good work and keep it up. And we'll revisit some more on the next meeting.
Yes.
Okay, so moving on, we have our ID decision support tool scheduled for 7:05. Matt Wason, do you have anything to share with us?
There it is.
All right.
Yes, pretty status quo stuff here that we're seeing. Our 2-week case counts has kind of flattened off the last couple of weeks. Just under 10 cases. Again, same old message. That's only people that get tested at a facility that's reporting those tests, none of those home tests that you're doing. So I would say I continue to see a pretty baseline reports out of our school, for example, of there just continue to be regular cases popping up pretty frequently. So I would call out mostly the vaccination information that we are still far below where I think we would want to be as a county, knowing that Littleton's usually right about the average. So we are 36.6% up to date, which means that people who have gotten a bivalent booster, which is the most recent vaccination available. So that is up 1% over the last 2 weeks. So we know there was a Vax clinic today.
Last
So let's keep pushing that. Please go out there, get your bivalent booster. COVID's still out there. There's still new variants bouncing around. So that's the best protection we can have right now to keep things under control. Other good news is our influenza for Massachusetts has been moved from moderate down to low. So we are hopefully out of the influenza season, at least for now. And then RSV, I don't even know if they're continuing to update RSV. This chart's actually the same as the last one, even though I believe it's about 2 weeks old, but we're out of the RSV big spike. So those are the good news pieces. Any questions?
How's hospital bed occupancy?
ICU wise, we're at 83%, so it's low. I don't have the total bed utilization on here because I don't know if we can actually get that.
It's actually in the same data source from the state website.
Is it?
Yep. Metro West, where we were on the 31st, so a week ago, 93.4% utilization. For Metro Boston, we were at 97.2, which in practice is over 100% capacity. That 93% for Metro West in practice is probably also over capacity.
So there's still concern about just being safe and practicing mitigation where you need it and where it's called for, and being smart and trying to stay healthy. Thanks, Matt, for putting that together.
Yep.
At 7:10, we can move on to a public hearing for 10 Ivy Road. It's a variance request. Alex Chongris from Chongris Engineering is here. Brenda, can you please promote him? Alec, sorry. Consideration of a local upgrade approvals variance request. Hi, Alec. Can you just state your name and your address for the public record?
Yep. Alec Chongus with Chongus Engineering, and the address of concern is 10 Abbey Road, Littleton, Mass.
Do you have something you can share with us on the screen?
Yep, absolutely. This permission. Is that visible? Sorry.
Screen's visible, but the print is not visible.
Yeah, I don't see the drawing. But
Yep, let's get to the good part right in here. How's that looking?
I don't see it yet. Maybe another screen.
Oh, well, give me one moment. Can you see that?
Got it.
Yeah. Perfect.
All right. Awesome. Anything else? You all said, you guys good?
We can see it. Can you just talk through the variances you're requesting?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a few things. So I submitted a plan last week or a few weeks ago with Jim, and he actually sent over some comments already, and I already addressed them because we're really trying to get this plan pushed forward right when spring starts. So the variances that have changed since our last submission was I was originally requesting a 2-foot groundwater offset. And then I learned that you guys recently have a regulation passed last fall that you require secondary treatment if you have that offset, if you're within 100 feet of a wetland. So I decided to reduce that offset to only 1 foot. So now only a 3-foot separation from groundwater to avoid having to do the secondary treatment. And so that's my first variance request. The second as you can tell, it's a small lot. It's one of those Littleton camp lots, which is very tiny. And under current conditions, there's a failed cesspool, and that's largely part due because of the high groundwater. And groundwater was about 2 feet below ground surface during testing in December. And that leads to an approval I'm requesting is to allow for a sieve analysis opposed to a perk test, just due to the saturated conditions. And I'm proposing putting a Presby system in here. I went through multiple different types of systems to see what would best fit in this small lot. And I found that Presby would be the smallest footprint that would require the least amount of variances, and a couple additional variances still going to be requested even with this small system, such as some setbacks. I'm requesting to reduce the setback from the property line from 10 feet to 9.4 feet. You can see right here. I'm requesting reduce the setback for the SAS from the cellar from 20 feet to 13.8 feet. And I'm requesting for the septic tank 8 feet from 10 feet to 8 feet. And then lastly, I'm requesting a regulation, your local regulation number 27, to allow the fill required to meet the minimum breakout grading requirements within 10 feet of a property line.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thanks for talking through that. Let me just go ahead and read Jim's comments on this for tonight. The sewage disposal system for this site is likely in failure based on the estimated and actual high groundwater table noted during soil testing on the lot. The lot is very small, has a high water table. The wetlands are within 100 feet of the leaching area, and a good portion of the lot contains the existing house. The high groundwater table was so elevated on the day testing was performed that it prevented a perk test from being conducted. A sieve analysis was performed to obtain a perk rate for the site. The area is served by town water. The applicant is looking for local upgrade approvals and variance to your local regulations. Most of the requests are for offset reductions, the offset from the bottom of the leaching area to groundwater, offset 2 feet, offset for the leaching area to the foundation, and property line offset to allow fill for the system to be placed within 10 feet of the lot line. Since a perk test cannot be performed, the applicant is looking to use a sieve analysis in lieu of a perk test. The lot is challenging, and based on your new regulation, the septic tank will need to be placed with a treatment tank. There are some other design concerns which need to be addressed. Given how difficult the site is, a system design which includes a treatment tank will provide a vastly improved on-site disposal system. With the inclusion of the treatment tank and the plan revisions requested, I believe this is a reasonable solution for the site. So you did decide to go with the Presby system.
Correct. Yep.
Good. We'll go around the board and see if there's any questions or comments after hearing Jim's comments. And I know that Any approval you get tonight would just be subject to Jim seeing this plan and just confirming that you've met all the things that he was looking forward to.
Absolutely.
So Kevin Davis, question?
So real quick, it looks like you have an impervious barriers around the entire system. Is that correct?
Correct. Yeah, I have to meet the breakout requirements.
Right. It's for the breakout requirements, but also just questioning the board on this one. Didn't we usually, if we're within 10 feet of the house, is there a basement in this house?
It's like a crawl space. It's like one of those old cinder blocks. It'd be classified as a crawl space.
So there's no storage in the crawl space or anything that the current homeowner has?
Correct. It's like an abandoned lot right now. So it's just there's like there's insulation in there and there's some various trash and things of that nature.
Oh, the house is abandoned right now.
Not abandoned. No one's living in there right now.
No one's living in there right now. Okay. And this current system supports 2 bedrooms for the Title V system, correct?
Correct. It's only a 1-bedroom house, but it's going to it has 2 bedroom per Title V, and there'll be a deed restriction to keep it at a 1-bedroom.
Okay.
In this, as you read over Jim's, I'm no longer requesting the 2-foot reduction from groundwater. I'm only requesting the 3-foot reduction so I don't have to follow with the new regulation that was passed in the fall.
The 1 foot reduction. So you're going from 4 feet to 3 feet.
Yeah. So it doesn't look like there's a treatment tank. Do I not see that, or am I just not reading the correctly?
Correct. So because instead of, if I was going to go with a 2-foot reduction, I'd be required to have the secondary treatment. I'd have to have the treatment tank, but I'm going with a 3-foot reduction that, based on your bylaw, doesn't require that.
And you have a Presby system, which is actual treatment. So I think that's okay.
Okay. No further questions for me.
Gino Fadaloni,
No question. Seems like he does the best thing he can
Dan Kane,
for what he's got.
Dan Kane, no questions.
Matt Weason.
I guess apologies because the information that we have is definitely a different drawing. Where, for example, the distance to the house was 18.4 feet, and now you're showing that at 13.8 feet.
Yep.
So I guess a piece of me is Jim's comments are clearly based upon a plan that is not what you're showing on the screen, but a different plan. Because obviously his comments are saying, yes, I support this system with a treatment tank. And now you've not only changed the offset, but you've changed the location of the whole system, right?
Correct. So, under Jim's comments, because I'm not sure if he's responded back to them or seen his plan yet, but that was based off the 2-foot groundwater offset, which would require the treatment plant. But since I'm going with a 3-foot groundwater offset, which I think is better conditions in terms of what the septic system is going to produce, I had to push the system closer towards the house to meet the grading requirements. Because when you have the 2-foot reduction, I had a smaller mounted system, but now since it's a 3-foot reduction, the system's higher. So they require I think the setback that'd be more, vital or more kind of a yes or no would be the groundwater offset opposed to pushing the system closer to the house. But you are correct in the sense that the offset is closer to the house from the plan that you guys have emailed to you earlier this week.
And what was your driving decision on going away from that plan to simply to avoid the treatment tank cost or installation or what would it? What are we talking?
Overall installation costs, I think, right, because the house right next door is also they're under new construction, not upgrade. They're going to be putting a new system in regardless. So there's going to be a lot of grading. There's a lot of possibility between both these neighbors to come up with a better grading plan where you can allow the grading requirements to kind of bleed into the other neighbor's yard. And I think overall it'd be easier for constructability wise. And if we can reduce, just kind of keep just allow a better grading plan for stormwater runoff into the wetland. And just overall, my preference of avoiding having to put a treatment plant if it's not necessarily required.
And then is the 50-foot wetland buffer just off the top of the map? Not present or not? Oh, there it is. Okay.
Yeah, so we're about 70-ish, 75 feet from the wetland. So we're within that 50 to 100 foot range.
Yeah.
And then, but we get that kind of, if you're within the 100-foot buffer, you have that regulation when it comes to the 2-foot reduction if it's requested.
Okay. I guess, yeah, in closing for me, I guess I understand where you're going to understand the changes. I'm a little bit hesitant just because this is not what Jim gave us commentary on. So Hey, that's not your fault. Thank you.
I'm a big proponent of grading easements. I hope you can work with the neighbor and figure that out. I think it's probably the best thing you could do over here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thanks for picking the system up. Thanks for using a Presby. 13.8 is not too close to a crawl space, in my opinion.
Yep. And you also have the tank around it too, which is an added protection. So
Is there a motion on this?
Any butters?
Are there,
Do we have any butters?
did you have to notify? You did, right?
yes, they were notified.
If there are any butters in the audience, please raise your hand. Doesn't look like there are any butters present. Does anyone on the board have a motion? I can. I'll make a motion to approve and grant the variances requested once Jim has a chance to review the updated plan.
Yep.
And sign off on it as we discussed tonight.
I second.
Motion in a second. We'll have a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Gino Faralloni,
Gino Ferroni, yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Thank you, Alec. Have a good night. Talk to Jim tomorrow.
Yep.
I'll get you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a good one, guys.
Moving on to a public hearing for 109 Mattawanakie with Ed Doucette. Brenda, could you please promote Mr. Doucette from Doucette Engineering? This is for consideration of a local upgrade approval for the offset to property line. Hi, Ted. Could you just state your name and address for the record?
Good evening, Ted Doucette. The address that I'm representing is 109 Mattawanakie Trail. The applicant owner may be on as well in the audience. I don't know if they want to promote them now or later. Merrill, Ernie's Excavating, something like that. They may be on as well.
You have a screen to
So
share?
yeah, so this is an after the fact. What's that?
You have a screen to share?
Yeah. So if you read my letter, this is an after the fact filing. During construction, we noticed that there was an error on the plan and the invert out of the tank was about 1.5 feet lower. It was just, I just crossed 2 points and put the wrong one on the tank. So we figured that out during construction and we had to make a change at that point. And working with Jim, we lowered the system to accommodate that elevation. And, you know, the thing I want to say here is, even though we're doing after fact filing, if I had realized that, if I hadn't made that error in the beginning, that we would have been here and made this exact same variance request at the time prior to construction, because we're everything meets Title V and we're trying to avoid the expense and complications of a pump. So this is right on Lake Mattawanakie. Mattawanakie Trail is up here. The lake is going to be back down here. Here's a well offset here from their decommissioned well here, and this is a well offset from the neighbor here. All other wells are 150 or greater. The buffer zone doesn't even show up on this plan right here from the lake. So the variances that we're requesting are going to be for depth of cover over the system, because once we dropped it, it went from greater than the 3 foot minimum down to about like I said, there's from about 4.75 to about 5.25 feet. So still meets Title V, 6 foot, no greater than 6 foot. The system is a pipe and trench, so it supports H20 loading. And we did an extra test pit with Jim. And I believe I didn't show the location. I might have to update the plan for him, but we did an additional test pit over in this area to ensure that the new bottom of the system is at least 5 feet offset from groundwater. And as shown on the plan, let me find a way to zoom in here. You know, we still have well over 5 feet, well, not well over, but about 5 1/3 feet shown. It's probably a little bit more than that. So, you know, I think Jim says it best in his comments that, you know, this is meets Title V. Unfortunately, we found it during construction, not before.
Actually,
What's that?
I'll go ahead and read Jim's comments right now. 109 Mattawamkeag Trail, the applicant obtained a permit to replace the sewage disposal system at the above mentioned site. The lot is small on the lake, and the only viable location for the replacement system was under the existing driveway. When the system was being installed, an error with the tank elevation was noted, and the system was installed deeper to compensate for the lower tank elevation. Once the system construction was started, the applicant needed to complete the system in order to access their driveway. The result of the lower system installation meant the maximum amount of fill placed over the system, 3 feet, would be exceeded, and I explained to the applicant that local upgrade approval would need to be requested from the Board of Health. Title V allows the board latitude when granting this local upgrade approved. The system needs to be vented, capable of H2O vehicular loading, and the fill over the system can't exceed 6 feet. The system as installed meets these requirements. We'll take questions and comments from the board. Maybe we'll go in reverse order. Matt Wason.
Oh, Ted, I get what you're saying. The reason why you said you were going to be here regardless was because it was the existing tank that was found to be deeper than the plan noted. Is that what it was?
Right. I had 2 shots, one on the top of the tank and one on the invert, and got them crossed.
Sweet. Okay. Thanks for bringing it to our attention. I'm good.
All right. Thank you.
Dan King.
Nope, that was gonna be my question of where it came from. So yep, the existing tank, you can only make your best estimate of where things are. So disappointing, but thanks for being upfront and forward about it, letting us know. And no, I think that works. You said this was more than 100 feet from the lake?
Oh yeah. Yeah. I know. I've driven by the lot. I know Ernie. I've driven by there and I was surprised, but yes, it is.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was just doing a quick Google, like, it looks like the lake almost comes up to the back of their house. So
Yeah. I know. I hear you. Yeah. It was flagged and surveyed. Yeah.
was it on the map? Was it on the plan where the 100-foot line was?
You know, I'm looking at this plan right here, and the line I thought was within it, but it was. I'd have to go back and look at everything to see exactly where it came in. But I can follow up with Jim on that, or I can follow up with you if you want to shoot me an email, or I'll shoot you an email.
No, I guess I'm just looking at the satellite photo. It looks like the house is 2 trees away from the water. So,
Dan, if I
Yeah.
could, there's a disconnected well right at the end of that building, and there's a line for that one. And the lake has to be just a hair further than that, I would say. You see what I'm saying?
yep.
There's a 100-foot well offset running right between the slab and the field. And that's centered on that disconnected well at the end of the deck. And the lake is,
Okay.
Northeast on the drawing from that deck. Yeah, I agree it's close, but
Okay. Yep. No, that was my only real question. Okay. Thank you.
Gino.
Yep.
Fedele-
You're welcome. Thank you.
Gino.
I have, I have no question. I think he's trying to do the best he can.
Kevin Davis.
Thank you for coming forward with a mistake. Appreciate that. And no further questions.
I have no questions. There was a hand raised in the audience. Lori, if you'd like to make a comment, please. There you go. Brendan, could you please promote Lori? Hi, please state your name and address for the record.
Hi, Lori and Ernie Merrill, 109 Mattawamkeag Trail.
Hi.
Hi. No, I just was saying you guys are having a tough time with the offset to the lake. I would believe the actual field itself is probably somewhere in the nature of 130 to 140 feet from from the lake. Because the garage that we put in the corner, that down the bottom corner was exceeded the 100-foot buffer as well. And it's a lot further than that. It just looks deceiving probably from the aerial view. But yeah, it's pretty far.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the small locus sort of planned in the center of this drawing here, you can tell that the shoreline is quite a ways back there.
Yeah. No, I was just clarifying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice night. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to accept.
I'll second that. We have a motion and a second. We'll do a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Gina Fratelloni,
Farrelloni, yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Thanks, Ted. I think we'll see you again soon.
All right. Thank you so much for your understanding. Appreciate your time.
Next, we have a 7:30 discussions for 1 and 2 Monarch Drive with Susan Carter from Places Associates. Discussions on existing septic system.
Good evening. I'm Sue Carter, and I'm a professional engineer with Places Associates located right here in Littleton at 256 Great Road. We're here tonight to give the board an overview of what's happening at the end of Monarch Drive and also to get some guidance from the board in terms of some of the alternatives that we would like to discuss with you about how to deal with the existing building during the construction process so that we can maintain existing building. If I may share my screen, Mr. Chairman. Okay. Can everyone see this? My
Yes.
screen? Okay. This
No.
is to,
I can't see it. No.
I didn't do it. Okay, let me see what I did this time. Let me minimize. Okay. Can you see it now?
I still don't see it.
Huh. All right, what am I doing wrong? I'm sorry about that. Let me minimize.
It's coming.
Okay, here we go.
One of your screens. Okay.
Here we go. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I can see it. Beautiful.
Good. I wanted to give you an overview of what's out there now, where it's located, and some of the obstacles on the site. So for orientation, this is 495, Route 2 interchanges down here, Taylor Street, and this is the Amazon building. And then Monarch Drive comes down and wraps down. This is the existing building at 1 Monarch Drive. We have the Harvard Sportsman's Club basically wrapping around the site. And the land that was recently donated to the town of Littleton includes this parcel and wraps around on this side. Zooming in, this shows the existing building at 1 Monarch Drive. And the parcels that are being developed for 2 Monarch Drive includes parcel 2A and parcel 2B, which is this parcel down here. What you see here is lot 1 Monarch Drive is about 23.9 acres, and parcels 2A and 2B are a total of a little over 20 acres. Wanted to give the board an overview because if you see this, the red line represents the property line.
Yep.
And this green line here represents a conservation restriction, which is already in place on this site. This site has Blanding's turtles on it. So much of this site has been in a conservation restriction area where nothing can ever be done on that property. So what is happening here is back in 1986, Lot 1 was developed. And at that time, if I can, at that time, they had contemplated having a mirror building on the other side, and their septic system is located in this area, which is a bump out of the lot line. And they had proposed a reserve area. This is back in 1986, so this was before Title V got updated to include soil evaluated determination of the groundwater table, before the loading rates changed. They're higher than what they were back then. It was 1.5 gallons per square foot of leaching area. Now it's 0.74. It also had, in this case, it was dosing, but it was not pressure dosing. And also there was no pre-treatment needed for large systems or mounding for large systems. So the existing building on lot 1 has a capacity of 6,000 gallons per day. There was an agreement back with the Board of Health years ago for to allow their cafeteria, but they're limited to 6,000 gallons per day. We're not proposing any changes to that. Going back here, so this is where their existing septic system is located, and their reserve areas in this location. Some of the board members may remember back in 2008, 2010, a hotel was proposed on this site. And that was the point in time when they went through the permitting process with Natural Heritage and put so much of the property in a conservation restriction. And at that time, they contemplated where the septic system for 1 Monarch Drive could be replaced. And this area over here was designated as a septic area number 1 and septic area number 2. So to come up to date to
Sue, can I just
2022.
clarify? I have one question. The septic system that's in place right now, that's to serve only one building. That's not to serve anything future.
Correct. That's only serving 1 Monarch Drive, the
That
existing
stays,
building.
that stays in operation as it is, and that building will continue to use that system.
If nothing happens, yes, that would be the case.
Sorry about that. Keep going.
Yep, no, thank you for I've said this so many times in my brain, I may overlook something. So the hotel never went through, and then the site I believe, was sold. The last Title V inspection was done in 2006. I believe that was prior to the hotel being proposed. And at that time, the only comment on the inspection report was having somebody inspect the pumps and make sure the pumps were working appropriately. We come up to 2022, these 2 parcels are owned by separate entities. This one is CDK Realty Venture 1 LLC, and parcels 2A and 2B were owned by it was CDK Mel LLC. They were separate entities. However, they had some common ownership, and they were both managed by Gabesco Management Company. So at the time when they were looking to sell parcels 2A and 2B, they made an agreement that they knew the septic system was on the end of its life. And if you see how this parcel projects, when you put a Title V setback from the leaching fields, as well as a zoning setback, it severely limits the ability to put anything in on parcel 2A and 2B. They negotiated with the buyer of 2 Monarch Drive, which is my client, VMD Industrial 5 LLC, to discontinue this septic system site and have VMD construct a new septic system for them in this parcel that was previously designated for a septic system. We looked at whether or not they could site the system on their own lot, and we came up with some significant obstacles. As you can see, we have a pond to the north of the parking lot area, with a buffer zone, wetlands wrap around the site, as well as this conservation restriction area. So when we look at their existing expansion area, reserve area, the size would have to approximately double in size, but also with groundwater mounding calculations as well as soil evaluator groundwater determination. The system would drastically regrade this portion of the parking lot, which for a residential site, it wouldn't be as bad, but in a commercial site, that means all the drainage would have to be redone. And as I zoom out, you can see there's very little room for drainage. There's already a detention basin here, and much of the site comes down and back to the pond. So that is part of why they said they wanted to put the system over in this septic, this area designated as septic on the CR plan. And give me a second. I will show you. So this was a 2010 plan, and they had designated that area as septic area 1, septic area 2 for lot 1, lot 2. And this is the parcel where the existing septic system is that they are proposing to sell to 2 Monarch Drive if the system is relocated. Couple of key things that I've discussed this multiple times with Jim Gariffi in detail is in going through the process for permitting for this lot, for this 2 Monarch Drive. We've gone through MIPA, Planning Board, Conservation, and the other, because of the Blandings turtles on the site. But the other thing is there are some major upgrades to Title V since this time. So this site is in a zone 2 of the aquifer. So Title V requires any flows greater than 2,000 gallons per day, and we have 6,000 gallons per day existing, requires pre-treatment. We looked into different pre-treatment systems, and the most common one that is used for larger systems like this that are big enough to need treatment, but not large enough for a package plant, was the FAST system. FAST has been bought out 3 or 4 times, so it's now called the STAR system, but it is essentially the.
Can I ask
FAST
one other question real
Oh,
quick?
sorry. Yep.
What's the proposed flow of the new building on Park?
Okay, I will get to that. The new building, let me pull up my rendering of that so you can see it. The new building is a 98,000 square foot warehouse building that they have leased 2 pods, and they will be having 5 employees in that site so that we have designed the septic system for the minimum size of 300 gallons per day for a commercial site. So this plan here shows the existing building at 1 Monarch Drive, the proposed building for 2 Monarch Drive, and the septic system for 2 Monarch Drive would be a small pump chamber, septic tank pump chamber, and a leaching area for 300 gallons per day.
Okay.
So when we look at the loading rates for Title V, if we were to put it all on this lot 2, if we look at the 6,300 gallons per day for a 20-acre lot, that lot could support on its own approximately 9,624 gallons per day per Title V. So we would not need to go for an aggregation of lot areas to support this. Under the Littleton requirements in the Aquifer District, we would be limited to 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet of lot area. And for the Littleton aquifer protection, we would need to consider both lots. They would both be tied together, obviously, with easements and restrictions on it. And with 2 lots combined, our loading under the Littleton requirements of 6 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet of lot area, we would actually have 3.29 gallons per day per 1,000 square feet of lot area. So we would meet the Littleton requirements. What was that?
How many square feet is a lot?
Considering two lots combined, it was, almost 40 acres. It was 1,914,247 square feet.
Oh, so what's your gallon per day requirement at that? At 3.9 gallons per day?
Oh, that's what it ended up being. If I were to multiply it out to how much it could allow, I believe it was well over 12,000 gallons per day. I didn't do the numbers that way.
Okay.
I apologize. So we meet the Title V loading just with Lot 2 alone, and then for Littleton loading requirements, it would be both lots, and that's how the planning board viewed it when we went for site plan review and special permits.
Okay.
So as you can see, what we would be proposing to do for Lot 1 would be to use the existing septic tank, which is a 9,000 gallon, 2-compartment tank, piping it to 2 new 8,000 gallons tanks, which basically take the components for the STAR processing system, which is essentially the biofast, so that we get denitrification. We're proposing to use a force main to pump it around the building to the leaching area, which is in the septic area 2, as shown on the CR plan. And we would build a Presby system to accommodate the 6,000 gallons per day.
So you're using a fast with a Presby?
Yes.
Great.
And in doing so, this has a much higher level of environmental polishing to the wastewater before it is discharged, both because of the
Oh, you're in a sensitive area there.
we are, and that's why, we considered that right off the bat. So we have the STAR system, and then we go to Presby. We felt Presby was warranted in this case because it's further back in the woods, and Presby, if there's ever a problem, can easily be rehabilitated more so than the traditional systems. And we also wanted it to be gravity so that all the pumps and mechanical components are near the building, so that if any problem occurs and an alarm goes off, the components are right there and can be readily checked.
And that comes with an operating and maintenance agreement with the.
They have already got that in place. When they purchased it, they all agreed that that would be the case. I don't have the final wording of it, but I do have that to present to the board. So far, we have submitted it to Jim Gariffi. He started his initial reviews. He wanted us to come before you to give you an overview of what is going on the site, so you're familiar with it. And he right now has asked us to do more testing out on the site in the expansion area. So we have scheduled a date for next week to take care of that.
Well, I'm just going to go ahead and read Jim's notes that he left.
Oh, okay, please do. And then I have some additional information to go over with you, but please do.
Okay. There's a new building proposed at the end of Monarch Drive, and in the process of this development, the lot will be reconfigured to create 2 lots. One lot will contain the existing office building, and the second lot will contain a large warehouse with some office space to support the warehouse. That division, construction schedule, location of the existing leaching area, and utility locations have presented the needs for some creative solutions to achieve the applicant's end goal. In the process, the sewage disposal system for the existing office building will be replaced with a vastly improved system, one which contains wastewater treatment, and the new building, which has a very small flow, will have a new system as well. The applicant will need a Title V variance for the construction of the new system since it's proposed on the lot which is being created. This request will be presented at a subsequent meeting with the board. I asked the applicant's engineer to present their plan to the board so they could get a better understanding of what they are trying to accomplish and for you to have an opportunity to ask questions and have your concerns addressed. The end product of this development will result in an existing office building having a sewage disposal system which will contain wastewater treatment and complies with today's regulations, replacing its 37-year-old system, and a new building with a fully compliant septic system. We'll just take a quick run around the board and see if anyone has any questions. We are a little pressed for time, Sue, so we're just going to run through real quick.
Can I go over one other thing
Yeah,
very
sure.
quickly with you?
Go ahead.
In all of our discovery for the about the existing system, what we're trying to do is move forward because the Fast System has a time delay to get it delivered to the site. And we have a lot of work to do on the site, relocating utilities and everything else. So we were asked to see whether or not we could use the existing system in a reduced capacity to handle the existing flows from the building. And I have this in a letter, and I realized that my email got bounced back and I missed it. I will be sending that to you. But anyways, we have determined that the average daily flow, the highest flows we've seen in the past or since COVID, is about 2,500 gallons per day. So what we are proposing to do is use one of the existing leaching beds and remove 10 feet of the bed so that we can get a utility trench past it. We have to redo all the electrical out there because it's so old. And we wanted to see if we could get support from the Board of Health for using this for no more than 6 months so that they could proceed to relocate utilities and do other things on the site.
You have water meter readings from?
Yes. So we have water meter readings from Littleton Water. We went through and we've excluded the COVID shutdown time. We've excluded the irrigation season where the flows are much higher. And then the other thing I did was recognizing that the building isn't used 7 days a week necessarily, is we took out weekend days and got an adjusted daily flow, giving us the highest flow being October 2021. And that was about 2,515 gallons per day. We have updated flows from Littleton Water and they were below that. We had December and January's. So what we're proposing is we ran the numbers. We would need approximately, to run the numbers, we would need approximately 3,400 square feet to accommodate those flows. And that one bed reduced would be about 3,850. So we have about 450 square foot additional bed area over and above what we would need under current loading. And
How far is the bottom of the system from groundwater since it was put in 1986?
it said it was 5 feet above the groundwater, but we have to recognize that that was the 1986 determination. It may still be there. It looks like we have higher groundwater now,
Have
but
you dug any more test holes out there? Or not yet?
we've done testing for our system,
Yeah, not over there.
but we have not tested out there because it's so close to this. We didn't want to do any damage to the existing system.
Okay.
It looks like it's close to being the 4 feet above groundwater. I can't guarantee it because that area is so disturbed and we don't want to dig it.
Well, let's run around the board and see if there's any questions or comments. Go in reverse order. Matt Wason.
On this new building, what are the odds that at some point in the future, somebody wants to convert it from warehouse to office? And if so, what would you do with the system?
Okay, so that would require full permitting with everyone, including Natural Heritage. If that were the case, the two systems are, we'd still be limited to the 10,000 gallons per day. So if they want anything more than 4,000 gallons per day, they would have to come back to, they would have to go to a treatment plant. We had laid out a system there, but they have a 10-year lease with pods. And so that's why this septic system is designed for 300 gallons per day for the 5 employees.
Okay, because but I guess what I'm asking is, you're using very little of the designated septic treatment area for building 2, right?
Right.
At the top there. If you had to grow, is the capacity there? And that's something where you could say, we can go in and expand the system in place?
There, and that's why, part of why we went with the Presby and part of why it's 300 gallons. That is with the Presby, we could add additional beds to it and expand it out.
Okay.
If
Because I just thought, just based upon your design, I understand there's 5 employees, but the parking lot looks colossal for a.
Well, initially, we thought it was going to be bigger, and then, but pods needs outside storage for the empty pods. and the pod units that are full will be stored inside the building.
Okay,
Um,
thank you.
But I think the key thing here is everything would need to go back before you, Conservation, Planning Board, and the harder one will probably be Natural Heritage because of the conservation restrictions everywhere.
Yeah, I understand it would. I was just more seeing if we had that long-term view, no, we're not painting ourselves into too tight of a corner.
Right. And-
So it looks like you feel comfortable that we could get up to the 10,000 someday if that were desired based upon the space we have.
Yeah, and to be honest with you, it wasn't quite the full 10,000 because of the the aggregate loading numbers, the 440 gallons per day per 40,000 square feet. So it's a little under 10,000, but that gets you in the area. And we did some preliminary layouts. It does fit, it's tight. And when Pod signed the lease, this was a much cleaner way to go through the permitting process. We were concerned if they overbuilt it and didn't use it, then we wouldn't get the same level. It would go anaerobic and it would not have the same level of
Treatment. Right.
treatment. So that was a concern there.
Thank you. Dan Kane?
My only kind of question follow-ups on Matt. It's a large warehouse, and it's certainly it's on like the 10-year plan is 5 employees, but I had the kind of the same piece of, okay, 2 years from now, they realize 5 people, you know what? We need to double it and go to 10 people. And while that doesn't seem, that's not a big difference, or 15 people, at what point, in that size warehouse, 15 people is also not unreasonable to foresee within 10 years of needing. Again, we're not going from 100 to 500. We're going from 5 to 10, but a system designed for 300 gallons per day at 15 people in there, for 8 hours or 12-hour days. Where are we? And that 10 years from now, we've overtaxed the system for 4 or 5 years, and now we've got challenges that were foreseeable but not addressed at the beginning.
So the 300 gallons per day accommodates 15 people. That's the minimum size. Pod's program and what they have in other similar warehouses is about 5 employees. So the 300 gallon per day minimum size gives us a factor of safety of 3. Actually, well, it's triple what they anticipate. So there is some buffer in that and flexibility.
Okay, thank you.
Gino Ferdoloni?
I think they do the best she can. I don't think they're gonna accelerating in 10 years. They have so many people there, and they know that they know that the septic system is only good for so many people. So I think we have to give them a break. I know. I go to the meeting in that particular area, and I see them digging, and they trying to do the best they can. I don't think I have any problem.
All right, Kevin Davis?
I am going to throw my name in the hat to go out and take a look-see next week when they do a walk around. I'll coordinate with Jim. This one's going to kind of interest me a little bit to see what's out there actually at the site. So I'll reach out to Jim for that, if that's okay with Mr. Baker, the chair there.
Yeah, absolutely. Let me know when you have it scheduled. Maybe I'll tag along.
Okay, great. The next thing is, I know in residential buildings, we put on deed restrictions and things like that. I don't know what we do in commercial buildings, so I'm going to ask the question, what do we do in commercial buildings to say no more than 15 people, no more than 15 employees at the site, yada, yada, yada.
I don't know if there's anything we can do to foresee the future use of this building after this lease expires. However, it would make me feel more comfortable, and out of an abundance of caution, to just put it on our calendar to revisit this in 5 years after 5 years of use, to sort of evaluate the system, see where things are at, making sure it's not being abused and that we don't have to expand it.
Yeah, we're gonna have to do something with this, because that's my major it sounds like that's everyone's concern, is the foreseeable future. How do we do this? And then my final question to the engineer is, what's the delta between the as proposed and a what you call it, a dropped-in septic treatment plant. What was the delta for the flow that the drop-in septic tank, treatment plant would take? I know it would go anaerobic because we don't have enough flowing through it, yada, yada, yada. I get that, but what was the flow rate where you would make that decision point?
To be honest with you, I never went that route because we, we didn't want to go for lower flows on the existing building. They're 6,000 gallons per day, but we knew that the building is not generating that number of flows. And with this building, once they got POD signed on the lease, it's much smaller. So we did not go down that road with the treatment plant because I was concerned that we may not get enough flow for it.
Well, what is so that's not my question, but what is the flow delta? Like we're getting, 6,000 from one and 300 from another. Where's the decision point where you say, okay, it's now, 6,000 and, 6,500 gallons. Therefore we need to put a drop-in system.
I was going by Title V where the 10,000 gallons per day.
10,000? Okay. Okay. So it's
Yeah.
10,000 gallons.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you meant if I had run the numbers here. No, it would, Title V is 10,000 gallons per day when you need to go to a treatment plant.
Yeah. I paid attention to what your numbers were, but I was like, okay, it's 10,000 gallons where you need.
Yeah.
Okay. Perfect. All right.
All right, well, thank you, Sue, for the discussion. I think you've heard all of our concerns, and you will, we'll chat with Jim. We'll take a site visit down there and let us know if you have any questions of us moving forward at a subsequent meeting.
Okay. The question I have one more question for the board. Would the board be in favor of us using the existing system in a reduced capacity for the existing
For
building?
6 months,
Yeah.
I feel like as long as you're continuing to take water readings and we can get a some sort of evaluation of that system on a monthly basis over the 6-month period. I personally wouldn't have a problem with it, but these are the guys you have to convince.
Okay.
And I believe the agenda item was only a discussion, so wouldn't that require a vote, Mr. Chairman?
It would. So if you'd like to take that up in a public hearing setting, we could take a vote on that
Okay.
at a future meeting.
We will do that. And we'd also like to obviously where we're crossing a lot line, we'll need to get a variance so that we can site this system on the adjacent lot and not on the lot itself. And I will, is it possible to set that up for your next meeting if we speak to Brenda? And
Yeah, certainly. Things may be in flux with our next meeting as it falls during some times when some board members may not be able to attend. We'll be sorting out a bunch of meeting dates over the next week or so. So please speak with Brenda and she'll get you on the meeting. And
okay, very good. Thank you very much. And if anybody has any questions in the meantime, feel free to, send along an email and we'll try to answer your questions or get you more information. And like I said, I will be following up with a letter and I will get copies of these plans to the board for your files.
Thank you very much, Sue. Have a nice night.
Thank you. Thank you. You too.
All right, so we can move on to our 7:40 public hearing regarding the establishment of the Department of Health. The Board of Health will discuss and vote on adopting the proposed fee schedule for fiscal year 24. So I think you'll find in the packets, where are we here? Is there the attachment? Okay. So we have the pro forma fee schedule for fiscal year 24 that we've sort of run through. I'm only seeing the one page. No, we have 2 pages here. Okay. So yeah, the second page, I guess it's page 33 in the packet. Those are all one-time fees. These numbers were deduced from surrounding areas and what Neshoba currently charges for fees. It's not perfect. There are probably some adjustments that may need to happen once we get rolling, but I feel like it's very close. The further down on the in the packet, you'll find the proposed fees with the pro forma revenue generation that we can foresee based on historical data that we've collected from Neshoba. It hasn't been a perfect collection process. However, I feel like we are certainly on the conservative end of what we can expect to collect in fees, in revenues, based on our based on the development in town and things sort of moving along the trajectory that we all sort of know is in the pipeline. Further down in the packet, you'll find a top line Department of Health budget, which takes into account the revenues that we just discussed. It's $179,390 a year, and then a rundown of expenses that would be incurred developing our department. The health director number is in flux a little bit. We have come to agreement on a number that is a more realistic one that we can plug in here to be turnkey and know it will work with a certain highly qualified candidate. And I apologize for the typo on the public health nurse piece of the budget here. We've also included a Littleton Department of Health proposed initial organizational chart, which calls out the health director, the administrative support and nursing services, as well as a 10-year conceptual organizational chart, building out the health department a little bit more with the administrative support, having a community health coordinator, a standalone food inspector, standalone sanitarian, and soil evaluator. We've also enclosed in the packet is an updated job description for a health director. Full disclosure, we'll need to get this job description approved by the select board. We'd like to just have this updated job description approved by the select board, then we can send it to HR for grading. Full disclosure, we're looking to come in probably grade 16, step 9-ish, somewhere around there, for a qualified individual that can run this department successfully the way it should be run. And you'll also find example resume, redacted, of a highly qualified candidate that I believe you all have been familiar with previously, just to outline the types of experiences, the types of qualifications we'd be looking for in said candidate. So I'm realizing that I'm looking at the packet. Should I be sharing my screen so that we can all be looking at the same thing at the same time? Is that all right?
That would be a better idea.
I was following along.
Thank you. I appreciate your scrolling, but let's do this so we can take questions and all be looking at the same thing. All right, so here are the one-time fees we were just discussing. So a plan review for a septic system, $200 if you're under 2,000 gallons a day, which most of them are. The soil testing, inspection if applicable. I don't need to read it all down and spell it out for you.
Yeah, my one question on this is, obviously, if this is FY24, what is the percent delta change from FY23, and what's the percent delta change for surrounding area, if that is something we need to worry about?
I mean, I think this is going to be a very much an evolving fee schedule as we develop our health department. Matt, do you know what off the top?
If I could, yeah, Kevin, sure. To address Kevin, this is based upon Acton's existing fee schedule, as well as what Neshoba has historically been charging, to our understanding. So the fees are, I would say, increased from Neshoba, probably very appropriately, and much more in line with surrounding community.
Okay, and so what I guess I'm getting at is what's the delta between FY 23 and 24 is what I'm kind of getting at. So so if it's like, let's just do plan review for, it's $200 for the less than 2,000 gallons per day, right? What's the delta from FY 23? Did we go from $175 to $200, or you know what I mean?
A lot of we could show you line item if you want to review it. A lot of them are that close, and some are a lot different.
Got it.
I would
Okay.
say the ones where we do the bulk of it, keep in mind, this list of fees, we don't do 60-70% of this. We were just building off of something that existed to say,
Yep.
oh, hey, we should get that in writing now. Why not add that to our fee schedule now? It doesn't mean we do hardly any of them. So
Right.
I would say that probably some of the ones that increase the most, we have never done and will likely never do.
Got it. Roger on that.
Just for a
Do
point of
we-
reference, I believe that soil testing right now in Neshoba charges $575 for regular residential system less than 2,000 gallons a day. I think we're at 500 here.
Yeah. So why the decrease if that's where our main stuff is coming from?
I think this was where Acton was, and Neshoba actually it might be 475. Somewhere easy at 475.
Got it. All right. I say, because if that's the bulk of our stuff and we're taking $75 off, that might not make sense.
Like I said, it's not perfect. Things will evolve. This is very
No, I understand, but if we're taking a vote on what the fee schedules are, which I don't know, I think is it just a discussion, or are we voting on?
We'll hopefully vote on this.
Yeah. So that's kind of my question is within the Neshoba stuff, how, like you said, if it's 475, we're going up to 500. Yeah, it makes sense, especially for trying to establish a person or an organization to come in. We're hiring extra people, and this is going to kind of go to help some of that. Then I get it. But if we're at 575 now, we're going down to 500.
That's you have the Neshoba current fees.
Yeah, so it's 425 right now.
420. Okay, so we're
Okay.
at 500. Maybe we just picked easy math. I don't know.
No, I'm not questioning. I'm the thing I'm questioning is if we went down, why do we go down? If we went up, I get it because I understand. I can see where the money's going to go. So I get that. That was just my comment. I was like,
Yeah, and plan review went from 175 to 200.
yeah, it's definitely an easy math sort of kind of thing. Okay. As long as it's not too. All right. So that's all the questions I've got on
And then
that.
these fees right here in green are the annual fees for such things as sewer treatment plants, all the way down to porta potties and stormwater camps and things like that. Nothing here is uncommon.
But you make a very fair point, Kevin, in that the next page, and if you need this information, I think that's fair to ask to say, keep going. Sorry, one more page down. This is where the quantities come into play that we're estimating from our Neshoba information. And so I think it would, it sometimes it's not apples to apples between all these lists that we've been looking at for these fees. But if you need this table with what we're proposing for FY24, what another town has, and what another town has, and what Neshoba has as a comparator, that's a fair request. I've been much more involved in these numbers than other people, so I totally understand if you have some questions about that, and that can be created if that helps inform you or anybody else.
Yeah, I'm just going, I'm looking at the fee and then the quantity and then the revenue, and I see the fees going up a little bit. And fiscal year 26, looks like you're going up 5%.
Yeah, there's a factor built in. We just started to say how, if we're doing some forecasting, what would happen if.
Yeah. And then correct me if I'm wrong. So this is assuming all this money goes into the assumption of the revenue that's there for the 179.39. Yeah. that would be the year one expenses, because that looks like it's supporting the first year kind of build out. You get administrative support, nursing assistant, public health, and then the health director. With your 5-year plan that you've got going out, what is the 5-year pay and step grading increase that the town's anticipating? And does the fee schedule cover that 5-year plan that we've currently got going out of the fee and step schedule of the individuals, assuming that there's going to be like, you know, a 3% or 8%, whatever the town votes on for raises? Have we factored that into the increase in fees for the 5 years going out?
We have some calculations to that includes both the benefit factor and then annual year-to-year increase for those salaries and benefits. It's just not in this summary.
Okay,
To
but
answer your question, does it fit it? I would not go on the record to say, yes, absolutely, it's totally covered. Partly because we have never done this, and I'm not convinced these values are necessarily right. I agree with Kevin Baker that they're probably on the conservative side. But the amount of money, if you look at the breakdown from the more conservative annual permitting numbers, right? Things we can depend on every year, all the time, is less than half of the budget, right? So it's those more variable year to year numbers, but a big housing development goes in somewhere with 100 units and all of a sudden our budget is triple all of a sudden. So I think it's hard to totally forecast that 5 years. And it's also obviously we threw in that 10-year conceptual org chart. We don't have funding for that right now. I'm just looking at the 5 year. That's all I'm doing is looking at that going, okay, that's a revenue projection for it coming in. And if this is what we're supporting, do we have enough of a belly button, test? Do we kind of laugh at ourselves as we look down at the belly button, or do we kind of say, yeah, kind of looks right? And I also think it's fair to look at this from the direction that the town has voted to make this change. This is a town decision. This is not a Board of Health decision. And I think that over the years, we're going to be working with the town. And when there's a gap, the gap has to be made up. If we have to have a Department of Health, we need funding for a Department of Health. I think it looks really great that we can potentially start with a positive number and not be a sink. I think that's a really positive look that we have right now. And so if that's enough to get us launched and get us started, you're right. Questions will come up. 5-year plan. How concrete is that? This is about the best we can do right now.
Okay, fair enough. And the other thing that I want to make sure that we understand, while I understand that it goes into the general fund of the town and all that kind of good stuff, the positive side of things, I would like to see at least stay with the public health area as much as we can, so that if we need to do outreach or how we can maybe invest that $11,000 into something that might help the town or benefit the public health area, that they can better, put out more communications or ads or whatever that would help them out. That's all. That's where I'm at.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that having something like this in place is great cause for us to actually have an accounting system. Where the money is coming from, see where it's going, seeing what's left over, and making smart decisions with those funds.
And don't we have something already in place? Open government, something where it shows all that
software. Yep. Brenda's working diligently on creating some of the fees that are already in place that we are collecting.
Just curious.
We're working on it. This is actually, this is going to be a big piece of how we utilize OpenGov moving forward.
Because I can see each of the different like annual licenses, and then underneath the annual licenses, you've got all of these that we currently have listed as the things that you're collecting fees on. So it's making sense to me.
Even for tracking food inspections, things of that nature, just go unrecorded or on.
And the other thing I want to make sure that we also cover in here, I knew the town had a dairy at one point. right at the end of, right there on Great Road near Lawrence. I know it's not looking to come back anytime soon. I get that, but I just want to make sure that we also have What?
Mobile version over there.
mobile version. Yes, exactly. Got it. Okay.
Um,
I've talked enough. I'll be quiet.
yeah, that's right. Dan Kane, any questions, comments?
I don't think so. I'd be interested to hear kind of the finance board and select board's approach toward looking at other departments which have fee schedules other than Parks and Rec, which is no longer an enterprise fund, but was basically had a self-funding kind of mandate to their programs, comparing us to the fire department, which brings in revenue through the ambulance billing, the building inspector's office, which brings in, again, permitting, which I think that's probably the closest fit to what our model would be. Sorry, going back up again. So yeah, so for 21, the building department's, total expenditures were about $290,000 with $125,000 in permitting fees applied back against their budget. So they were still a net deficit of $165,000, which came out of the general fund. So I think looking at other departments who are similar, again, we'll pick building as probably the closest fit, but fire department and cemeteries, places where revenue is being generated by their services, that it doesn't seem to be in other departments an expectation where the department is self-funding. And I don't think it should be. If it's possible, that's wonderful.
That should be the
Decreases
goal.
taxpayer load.
That should be the goal, though, right?
It should be absolutely that, the cost of within reason. For example, permitting fees should represent the cost of permitting. It shouldn't necessarily cover other costs. Nursing services are going to be, for the most part, non-revenue producing. Doing exams, doing outreach, doing follow-up investigations, all those pieces are, we'll use the business model of non-billable hours. They cost money to do, but they're not generating revenue for the most part. So we expect there to be some costs of doing business which really can't be reflected back into other fees while still being representative of the, I believe one of the requirements for any fee is that it's representative of the cost of accomplishing that goal. If it costs, if the cost of time, money, and effort for one of our inspectors to go out and do a Title V is 4 hours of work time between reviews and site visits, I'm picking a number, then that cost should be proportional to what the cost of it is to do that. So we're always going to have, it's really not fair to necessarily try to roll in nursing services, flu clinics, other costs that aren't revenue producing potentially into those fees. That's just generally not how it's done. So we're always going to have some operational costs that are not going to be coming out of it. So I think the budget is, I'm kind of with Matt and Kevin that half the budget is going to be coming out of things that are relatively predictable, and the other half is going to be, some years are going to be busy with construction or new projects or new things, and other years, costs are up, so we're not building right now. Whatever, rules have changed, so it's going to take a couple of years for builders or businesses to adopt or adjust to those changes and get back to what they wanted to do. So that's the only piece. And again, from the finance board side, the select board side, of just making sure that we have that support, just like every other department would, to be able to accomplish the goal for the citizens of the town. And any revenues that's being produced by permitting fees is basically bonus. The town's government's job is to provide, for the health, safety, welfare of its citizens. Any revenue that comes out of that helps subsidize it is a good thing, but it's not necessarily the only thing. So I'll be curious to see what those folks think, particularly with our recent budget challenges here in town.
Yeah, we've had excellent communications. I've had excellent communications thus far with both the chair of the select board, who happens to be in attendance in our meeting tonight, and the chair of the finance committee. They both had questions regarding, well, this all looks great, where does the revenue come from? So I sent them the spreadsheet this morning, and they probably haven't had a chance to digest the whole thing, but there weren't any other questions. I think our next step is to have a joint meeting with the select board and FinCom, and that will be my first email tomorrow morning requesting that, along with hopefully requesting that the select board approve the job description that hopefully we approve tonight, as well as submitting the approved proposed fee schedule to be put in place for FY24 so we can establish this Department of Health. Does anyone else have any other questions on this? I'll also have to check the audience. I don't know if there's any.
So the only other thing I had, which was on the organizational chart, I really want some sort of line or something, or the Board of Health slightly elevated over the director. Well, I understand they take overall direction and policy from us, whereas they're the implementation arm, things like that. There needs to be some sort of line somewhere on there, just not a box, if you know what I mean. Just to edit. I'm not saying I'm not going to say
No, I saw that note and I agree with that.
Okay.
We do have a hand raised. Matthew Nordhaus. Brenda, if you could please promote Mr. Nordhaus, that'd be great.
Good evening. Thank you for promoting me.
Good evening, Mr. Nordhaus. Could you please just state your name and address?
Matthew Nordhaus, Star Hill Road and Littleton Select Board. I think Mr. Kane mentioned the fee schedule and how, other examples in town. I know that the building department has gone by the same method that you did, which is look at neighboring towns. And I think last year they did a pretty substantial update to their fee schedule, which was largely raising the rates. So I think that that's as good a methodology as any for determining what the rates are. Two questions. One is, we have historically had a very hard time getting numbers out of Neshoba, so I would be very interested to see prior year's numbers for all of these, because I think the accuracy of this forecast of the pro forma is pretty important to the monetary health of this entire endeavor. And the other question is, with the staffing you've proposed, is it reasonable to expect that this is doable? Like all of these inspections, all of these actions are doable with the staff that you're proposing?
I'll address the first question in regards to the historical data that we've gotten from Neshoba. We have, I guess it's been over the past 2 years, Lisa Flanagan passed off some documentation that came from Jim and Neshoba, and what is reflected in the FY24 quantity column is generally what was given to us from Neshoba. I think we're hard pressed to get any other hard and fast data out of them. But I think this is very indicative of what it's going to be. We also had a conversation with Commissioner Mullen in regards to the quantities. He thinks they're low. He has to do a report to the Housing and Urban Committee once a month to call out how many units of new construction, et cetera, are being put into place. And he thinks 33 is the number for 2023. Annually, 33. So I think we're on point and a little bit conservative for FY24. I'm going to defer to Matt Wason for the answer to the second part of your question, if Matt remembers it. Let's say.
I was ready to answer the first part, Kevin. So I apologize. The second question was,
are we sure we can do all of this with the staffing that we have?
Can we do it all?
Proposed?
That's a good question. I think what I would say is I feel much better about this plan and being able to accomplish the work that we need to do than our kind of prior plan, which was the health, what position?
Sanitarian? Was that what it was?
Who was also the sanitarian, yeah.
Right. Because another piece that we didn't mention earlier, but there are other revenue streams that have to be created, such as obtaining and renewing grants. So we need some better expertise at that higher end to help create that. Now, when it comes down to the, you know, boots on the street jobs of actually doing some testing or actually doing some inspections, our ideal is, yes, when we launch a department like this, we would love to find that director who doesn't mind having some hands-on. And at least one person we've talked to, that seems to be an appropriate ask. If we then have to start contracting out some of those services, that potentially eats into the bottom line that's black right now. But I think with the added administrative support, the definite public health nurse, quantities of hours, and a director level position where we can impose higher expectations, I think that's enough to get us launched. And the other bonus that comes with having that director level position is, I know it's been bantered about a lot over the past year and a half to say, oh, well, we can always, you know, partner with town X or borrow resources from town Y. Well, the better and more capable person we have in that role, the much more likely any of those other possibilities are going to happen. Those doors are going to be much easier to open, I think, if we have that level of individual. So there's my step around your question as much as possible to say, is this going to work? I'm pretty sure it's going to work. It is less people than some of our neighboring towns have, but they've been doing this a lot longer. They're larger towns. We've got to strike that right balance of how do we launch out of the gate. In talking to one expert about this, the concern was mostly actually about administrative support to make sure all of those knots were getting tied. And so that was kind of one of the more recent discussion points to make sure we got that added in.
Thank you.
Just to follow up on that, you know, I do feel that once we have this person in place and once we're able to put the systems in place, that we need to make this as an efficient operation as it can be. We are going to have more than enough time to take care of all of the statutory requirements and the things that we're mandated to handle. We're going to actually be able to push the chains forward and make progress on issues that we're not even scratching the surface on now.
Thank you. One more quick question. Is all the pro forma net new revenue for us?
It is.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and the pro forma ignores the subtraction of fee to Neshoba.
Right. But then also we have more expenses with wages and benefits. So that is also not in this calculus, but understood. Thank you for that information.
We have no more public comment. Did you raise your hand, Matt? I'm sorry. No. All right. So at this time, are there any further questions on the proposed fee schedule for FY24 from board members? If not, we will entertain a motion if there is one.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the fee schedule as proposed.
I second it.
Kevin Davis seconds. We have a motion and a second. Roll call vote. Kevin Davis.
Kevin Davis votes yes.
Gino Fratelloni.
Yeah.
Dan Kane.
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason.
Matt Wason, yes.
And Kevin Baker votes yes. The other thing I just wanted to discuss is the job description. I'd like to be able to present that to the select board tomorrow. So I'd like to know if this board is prepared to approve that as well. Hoping there's a motion to take care of that. I'll make a motion to approve the job description for the health director as described in the packet.
Second.
A motion and a second. Roll call vote. Kevin Davis.
Present.
Does that mean I move on?
No. Kevin Davis votes present. Yeah, you can move on.
Okay. Gino Fratelloni,
Yes.
Dan Kane,
Dan Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. We'll return back to Kevin Davis if you'd like to abstain or.
I'm going to abstain.
So the motion passes 4-1. Is that how that's calculated? I don't know.
4-0-1. That's
0,
okay.
4-0-1. Okay, so we'll present that to the select board. And next on our agenda are the administrative matters. We've already approved the minutes. Correspondence, we did have some correspondence from Alex McCurdy regarding which actually didn't make it into the packet, so we won't discuss that, but we'll go through board member updates and comments for discussion. Raise your hand if you have a comment, or I can date Kevin Davis.
Hi, thank you. Great meeting this evening. Lots of spirited discussion. Love it. The first comment I had, which was from this very cold weekend temperatures, and one of the things that I did not see the town do, which maybe it's in the background and I'm not aware of it, was a heating center. And what were the plans for a heating center with some of our residents? Heating systems going down and things like that. As cold as they were, was there a place to go check in? I think the library was open, ?
Dan might know the answer to that. Oh, Dan. No.
I didn't hear or see any postings, and certainly if we as a board were unaware of it, I'm going to go with, I didn't hear about it as a resident who's usually relatively tuned in. I would be curious if Gino had heard about it, because certainly as someone who's much more tied in to residents who are most at risk for a cold event, I'd be curious to see if Gino and his circle of contacts had heard of anything that, even if we did have it in place, if it wasn't well known among town, it really didn't accomplish the goal.
Was there anything, Gino? Do you hear of anything? A place to keep warm in the cold?
So far, nobody made any bad comment. I mean, you have to realize we've been having a very, very nice weather, except for some couple of days. This next week is going to be like a 57 for me. Give me a break. It might rain a little bit, but there is no snow. There is no ice. So we are very.
So no, that's a great call. Certainly something perhaps that we, in conjunction with the fire chief, emergency management director, the select board, this is going to be a kind of an all hands decision of what our resources are, what is our best choice, most effective choice, easiest to operate on a 24-hour basis for emergency warming, whether that's opening up, downstairs the library, which is relatively easy.
Yes.
To contain most of the library, still relatively secured. It's got space, it's got water, it's got bathrooms, and would not be a heavy lift to open other than a couple personnel. Town hall, multi-purpose room isn't necessarily a great choice, but it's an option. We have a few places in town. It's just a matter of anticipating, since if it happened, it wasn't well advertised. If it didn't happen, then we should really identify what our plan is, so that in 24-hour notice, it's rare that it comes up that we aren't aware of something as cold as this past weekend was.
And there
but
was
also, truthfully, anticipating that, okay, so, 10 below is an unusual one, but if it was a 20-degree day, 20-degree weekend, which is not unusual, and the heating system at Pine Tree Park went down, and now we've got 20 or 30 or 40 or 50 apartments that do not have heat, and that's in town-owned property, what are our resources to get those folks into someplace relatively quickly? Because that's not the time to go, what are our resources? What's it going to take to make this place happen? Now, the CERT team is exactly the folks who can help make that happen on a large scale. But if we're looking at my house, it's really cold, it didn't work, and now I need support, having 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 families is much different than a catastrophe at an apartment building at Pine Tree Park, one of those places. It is different, but again, that stuff should be planned ahead. And the CERT probably has the big bad one planned. I'm not necessarily sure of that really cold weekend being ready and available piece.
And
And it's going to take more than them to make happen. It's going to take a town piece with their support to make it work.
yeah,
So-
and I was also thinking the trailer park as well, because those are really well insulated buildings. And it was cold. It was really freaking cold. And as an individual who lost his heat for 36 hours, yeah, it was cold.
You have a heat pump?
I had a heat pump, yeah, and it was just installed, not, working out the kinks, nothing there, nothing wrong. The heat pump, actually, we had heat. We had 92-degree air coming out of our registers Saturday night. So we were back up to 67 degrees Saturday night. So it was just that Friday night when it just, yeah. So it was not fun. So that kind of brought it to mind. I'm like, okay, what happens when ... We have a fireplace, everybody huddled around the room in the fireplace. It was 62 degrees. It was not a problem. We have backups of backups in my house. I am comfortable to have that. I'm fortunate to have that, but I'm thinking, because it was only one day, we had it. But if it was more than a day, and we had, like back in 2008-ish, 2012-ish, where we had those, it was like 3 or 4 days where it was minus, oh my gosh, cold temperatures. Yeah, that kind of hit home quick. So
If that happened, evidently the school will be able to be used. And the school, they already have the heat 24 hours a day practically.
yeah, for me, it was more of a, because it was well publicized. Hey, 3-4 days out, we know this is coming. Get ready,
Yeah.
And so I didn't hear anything from the town, and I was like, okay, see what happens.
If I may, as Dan was kind of saying, there are two categories. There's one that's catastrophic, that there's probably a paper binder somewhere that tells us exactly what to do, that you pull afterwards. And what I'm kind of hearing, and what I would like to see, is something that's proactive. Like you're saying, we know the weather's happening, so people should know about it in advance. And frankly, we should say that it's open. It will be open at this hour on this day, because in the emergency is not when you're going to then want to try to find out. So I would like to see something where people just expect, we know, we're activating, Team Green. That's what's happening this week in anticipation for that. Does that mean sometimes we're going to open something and the weather's not going to be that bad? Sure. But I would far rather see something where we say we open it in a small quantity in advance, so that people know, if trouble hits me suddenly, here's where I go, or what I do, or who I call, that kind of thing. So I would recommend that Mr. Davis take that on and develop that plan. Thank you very much.
What do we do in the summertime when it gets really hot? Is there a cooling station?
No,
I
give
have
them a
seen-
visa.
What'd you say, Gino? Does anyone know?
So
What
I
about
have seen
pizza?
cooling stations. I have seen in the past, like years past, there were cooling stations when it was above, when it got to the upper 90s and 92% humidity. There were cooling centers that people could go to for the day. And I don't know about the overnight ? But at least there was some place to get in and get some air conditioning for relief. But yeah, that was kind of the same kind of thing. Like, I was expecting to see a warming center, because I know other larger cities did this. I just didn't know what smaller cities did.
Yeah, we can certainly, I can open up a conversation with the fire chief and see what's in place for such a thing.
Cool.
My only comment was to thank Gino for being the community outreach person and head of distribution for COVID supplies today, running around town and getting things where they need to be. I appreciate you. Thank you.
You're welcome, anytime. If an emergency arrive, you can call me, or you can call the police and let them know. and the fire department, and then they get in touch with the school to open it up, especially the high school, which is a bigger, okay? And for, let's say for 40 or 50 family, as long they know there is a place to go, as long they bring something to sleep if they get tired. They have to have a pillow and a couple blankets. They have to bring it themselves. But the question is, something like that happen in emergency, on me that the town is going to open up, not to worry.
Any other board member comments? If not, all we need is a motion to adjourn.
I make a motion to adjourn. Thank you so much.
Matt Wason.
What are we doing about our next meeting?
All right, so we have a couple board members not here for the February 20 something meeting,
22nd.
22nd meeting.
22nd or 27th? That was
It's scheduled for the 22nd, which is a Wednesday, and then we have a meeting on March 8th. Given the potential urgent nature of things that might pop up in the next 2 weeks, I think we should keep this meeting on the books, but potentially reschedule it to March 1st and then have meetings March 1st and 8th. I just don't want to have an emergency pop up and then, yes, Kevin Davis.
the week of the 27th. I will be out of state.
Okay.
Yeah. For business. I have to go to Utah to do stuff.
Okay, the snow is pretty good.
No, it's total business. It's none of this pleasure. I would love to go to Park City, trust me, but no,
It's a
not
little bit,
as luck.
Should we go off our cadence for March since it has 5 Wednesdays and do 1st, 15th, 29th of March? Because that would keep us on a 2-week cadence into April all the way through.
Yeah, why don't, if, I mean, I'm okay with that. 1st, 15th, I'm not here on the 15th. And the 29th, we can do that. I won't be here. And, you know, I'm not gonna be here on the 1st either. Can we just keep the 22nd right now, and we'll adjust if raise your hand if you can be there on the 22nd. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, yeah, I maybe can. All right, we'll keep that on, and we'll just keep updated as we make progress on things, and we may not have much on the agenda for the 22nd, so we'll
Urgent inquiries only.
urgent, right? Exactly.
I hope we don't have too much agenda in April.
I know we had a motion to adjourn from Gino. Did we have a second?
I'll second.
Motion in the second. We'll have a roll call vote. Kevin Davis,
Kevin Davis, yes.
Gino Fratelloni,
Jennifer, yes.
Kane,
Ben Kane, yes.
Matt Wason,
Matt Wason, yes.
and Kevin Baker votes yes. Thank you guys very much for all your hard work.